Hi everyone, this is Joe. What follows is an episode where Valerie and I sit down and we reply to all the feedback we got from our January episode where we talked about the movies of 2023, and we're also going to talk about the things we watched in January. One of the things that we've talked about in the past is phantom events, which is how we see some of the classic things on the big screen. And I just wanted to let everyone know this isn't a paid ad or anything. I just think Phantom Events is cool because it gives you the chance to see some classic stuff on the big screen. So I'm just going to tell you the stuff on Phantom that I think would appeal to, us in the gaming community. There's other things, and you could go take a look. The link for Phantom Events will be in the show notes. From when this episode drops next weekend, February 18th and February 19th, they are showing the 40th anniversary of Dune, the 1984 version, the one with Sting and Patrick Stewart. Personally, I didn't like this movie. James thinks it's better than the one that came out a couple years ago. I think he's completely wrong. But, different people like different things, and it might be worth going to see on the big screen. In March, they are showing Labyrinth, also the 40th anniversary for that. In July, they are showing The Never-Ending Story. Again, 40th anniversary for that. Also in July, they're showing a movie called Man and Witch, The Dance of a Thousand Steps, which I have never heard of. But it stars Tammy Stronach in The Never-Ending Story. She's the girl that plays the Empress, but now she's all grown up and she's in this movie. And I don't know if it's an art film and that's why it's on Phantom Events, or if it's a classic that I don't know, I just somehow never heard of. But I might be going to see that one. Blazing Saddles and Rear Window, they're not genre. I don't like Blazing Saddles. I'm not a fan of Mel Brooks humor, but Rear Window, Alfred Hitchcock, I'm a huge fan. I will definitely be seeing that, and I'm a Jimmy Stewart fan. But anyway, in November, they're going to be showing my wife's second favorite movie of all time, The Fifth Element. We will definitely be going to see that. Again, the link for Phantom Events is in the show notes. And the way it works, is they just work with theaters throughout the country. So probably a theater near you will be showing these things. Check it out. It's pretty cool. So enough of that. Let's get on with the episode.
Welcome to the Decahedron RPG podcast, hosted by Joe. Welcome to the Decahedron RPG podcast. Enjoy the show.
Hi, Valerie.
Hi, Joe. That always sounds so weird.
It does. It's like we don't know each other. But gotta start somewhere. You were on a couple weeks ago, and we did a show about our movies of 2023. And we got a lot of comments.
Yeah.
I think people like you.
Aww.
And so they write in. So I thought it would be neat for us to review them together. But before we do that, I thought rather than waiting a whole year, let's talk a little bit about the media that we've consumed recently. Because we're only talking about a few weeks here, we'll even open it up to beyond the movie theater. But we'll start with the movie theater. Just last night, we went to see The Beekeeper with Jason Statham and Felicia Rashad and nobody else I knew.
Jeremy Irons was in it.
Oh, yeah, Jeremy Irons from the original D&D movie.
And, oh, come on, the boy from Five Nights at Freddy's.
Oh, yeah, the boy from Five Nights at Freddy's. Freddy.
No, I can't remember his name. You better cut that part out.
Nope.
I can see his face. How can I not remember his name? Oh, my God.
All right, so The Beekeeper, standard Jason
Statham.
Thank you. I was trying to add an R in there. Jason Statham fare. It's an excuse for Jason Statham to go around and hurt people for an hour and a half.
But he's good at that, though. He's kind of that broody, kind of brute of a guy. But
he
suits that, so I'm okay with that.
Not a whole lot of exposition scenes. The normal pattern is exposition, action, exposition, action. This is pretty much high action all the way through. And I realized I said that like it sounded kind of negative, like standard Jason Statham fare, but in a good way. I mean, you know what you're getting into when you go see a Jason Statham movie, and this delivers. It didn't disappoint. I like the mythology, I'm using air quotes there, of the beekeeper. It's nothing I've never heard before. Of course, we'd heard of secret government agencies before. Well, secret extra governmental things before, like the Kingsmen.
Right.
But this was the beekeeper. But yeah, I liked it.
Yeah, I thought it was really good. It is a typical movie for him, but I sometimes just need a movie where let's just go. Lots of fighting, and there was still a good storyline to it. I liked it. But yeah, sometimes it's nice to just have a good action movie for no other reason than to just be entertained. And the other boy in the movie was Josh Hutcherson. Yes, I looked it up. I cheated because I couldn't remember.
And because this is a gaming podcast, I would say that whole beekeeper thing would make a good role-playing scenario.
So although I don't do role-playing, I actually think that would be really cool for that.
Yeah, I think you could do an espionage campaign based on that. The only thing that I would change would be there wouldn't be one beekeeper. It would be a beekeeper team.
Right.
Other than that, I think this would work great for gaming.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
The other thing we saw was Killers of the Flower Moon. Martin Scorsese directed, starring Leonardo DiCaprio and Robert De Niro and
Lily Gladstone. She was the other lead, and she did get an award for Best Actress for that, which she absolutely should because she was amazing.
Yeah, the only thing I found disappointing about the role, is that it didn't really give her a lot of directions to go. Right? She's very stoic in the beginning, and she's very depressed at the end, and there's not really a range of emotions to go there.
But she was good at what she did. That was the character. Yes. She was good. Brendan Fraser has a small role in it. Jesse Plemons, he has I don't know if I'd say co-star role. It's not a huge role, but yeah, it wasn't bad. John Lithgow has a little role in it too. Funny, I barely recognized him. He looks so much older.
Let's talk about the elephant in the room. It was a 3.5 hour movie.
I wanted to see that in the theater. And when I saw how long it was, I said, no. I love a good movie. You know that. I am a movie buff. But 3.5 hours is way too long. I don't care what kind of movie it is. No movie needs to be that long. I can assure you. Either make it a series, make it 2 movies. Not that I like that either, but cut it down. And I guess they were trying to make sure to get everything in, and I understand that. And it was a great movie, but it's too long.
So I guess it's based on a true story.
Yes, it is. It's based on the book that's based on a true story. Yes. Yeah.
And so I guess they wanted to do justice to the story.
I get it.
I agree. And it's funny because often when we're watching TV, like a series or something, we'll say, this would have been a better movie.
Right.
This was the opposite. I think this would have made a good miniseries.
I think it would have been a great miniseries, actually.
But I think that would be a step down for Martin Scorsese to say, I'm doing TV now. You know what I mean?
I definitely understand that. I do think it would have been nice on the big screen, though, for some of the scenes, just for some of the backdrop and everything. I think it would have been pretty cool. And it was filmed where it actually took place. They did film it in Oklahoma and everything where that all happened. And so, yeah, it was really cool. It was good. I'm glad we watched it at home, though, just for the fact that we could get up in the middle of it and take a little break.
But yeah, it was a great movie. Again, because it's a gaming podcast, I'd say you could definitely turn this into a story. You're dealing with real history, so you have to kind of tiptoe around things. Maybe cast it in a fantasy setting. And there's so many ways you could come at this. You could have the players as the Native Americans. You could have the players as the lawmen at the end. Or if you have particularly bad players, they could be the white man.
And you can definitely have the villain in air quotes, right?
Yeah.
I think because of the story being true, I think you'd really have to be careful with that. But it was a very good movie, just way too long.
And then the third one was a TV show on Apple TV called The Servant, produced by M. Night Shyamalan. He directed a couple episodes. His daughter directed and wrote quite a few episodes. It lasted for 4 seasons.
So Rupert Grint, if anybody remembers him, was Ron Weasley in the Harry Potter stuff. He was actually really good in this, and I was pleasantly surprised because it wasn't a character I would have thought of him as playing. The leads really, Lauren Ambrose, she looks familiar. Toby Kebbell was the lead guy. The girl that played the servant, again, never heard of her before. Nell Tiger Free. A really good cast. I was really surprised because there's a lot of times we'll watch stuff and I'll be like, oh, most of them were cast good. You know, sometimes you look and you're like, how did that person get that role? They just weren't suited for it or whatever. But it was really good cast. The story, though.
I like the story. I like the story a lot. It is a psychological horror. I'm trying very hard not to give any spoilers.
Don't give it away.
I think they try a lot to keep you guessing if what's happening is supernatural or if it's, just people doing things. I thought it was pretty obvious, but I felt like they were trying to string you along then. And then there's a 4th season episode all about that. It's
a hard show to talk about without spoilers because there's so much you can't say.
It's almost like his M. Night Shyamalan.
I was just going to say that. That's very typical of him, and he likes surprises and a little twist and turn. And I typically like most of his stuff for that reason. I do think most of the stuff was obvious. There were some nice little surprises, though. I like to be surprised in these kind of things. I think we watch so much stuff that sometimes it's hard for me to be surprised. A lot of people don't get surprised by stuff, but...
And even the stuff we got right, though, we were still kind of second-guessing
for sure, because he's good at misleading, which is nice.
It's a story with a start, a middle, and an end.
Yeah, I like when they do that.
Like I said, it was 4 seasons that started in 2019, finished in 2023. The one negative, I will say, is that the last episode, it made sense. It ended the way it needed to end. But because of that, it was very anticlimactic. You know, you wanted something big and dramatic to happen, and it doesn't.
I disagree with you.
Okay.
Because I think that's a typical M. Night Shyamalan thing, right? You never are going to see what the ending's going to be. You can guess, and we guessed a little. I thought it was going to be a bigger thing, so I actually was okay that it wasn't, because it was kind of a surprise. It's so hard to talk about this show without... you could probably give a little bit of the premise, though.
Oh, so yeah, a little bit of the premise is that the girl...
Nell Tiger Free.
She shows up at this couple's house because they advertise they need a nanny. Yeah. And when she shows up, it turns out...
Don't give that away. No. That's why I said you can't. Just a little tiny bit is all you can. Otherwise, you're going to ruin it. Because I do think that's a surprise.
And so she's the servant.
Yes. There you go.
There you go. But yeah, so she turns out that beep. And then, but then that turns out that beep. But then later on, it's beep. Yeah.
You really can't. I mean, I don't know any way you could talk about this series other than to say that without giving away too much, because it really, they do a little bit of the time thing where they go back a little bit. I'm not usually a fan of that. It wasn't too bad, though. It kind of made sense in this particular series, but I'm not typically a fan of the back and forth in time thing. But I get why they did it the way they did, so you didn't really know fully what was going on until you got further into the story. But you really can't say a whole lot because it'll give it away.
And the other thing I will say on it, though, is that they left it wide open for a sequel.
You could do a sequel.
I could write the sequel in my sleep.
Oh, yeah, you could, but you don't need to. They closed it enough that you're like, okay, I'm happy with that. It's done. Everything's been answered to. But yes, if they wanted to do a sequel, they could.
So all three of these, Beekeeper, Killers of the Flower Moon, and Servant, recommendation, thumbs up.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
The other thing is that when I was buying our tickets for Beekeeper yesterday, I saw that Cinemark had these D-Box seats, which are sort of a haptic feedback in the seats. You know, for all you like video gamers out there, you know, that's your PlayStation controllers that vibrate in your hand and stuff. Only it's the seats that do that. And they do a little tilty stuff too. I'll hold my thoughts for a second. What were your thoughts?
Oh, you're going to let me give mine first? Because mine's going to be bad. I went along with, yes, let's do this because you seemed really excited about it. Not anything I was even interested in, not going to lie. I'm not a fan of that. I know that they do some of the rides that way too. That whole, like, I'm sitting in my seat and it vibrates because I'm supposed to feel the car rumbling or the crash and the bang. And so my seat's going to do a little rumble thing. I just don't get that. I know a lot of people like it. I'm like, it was okay. It did do it a lot, like way more than I thought it would have. I even turned it down. So you can adjust it. So there's a high, a medium, and a low setting. And then this other setting that was red that I thought meant it was off. And so I did that and I was like, this is great. So it didn't do anything for a while. And then it all of a sudden started doing weird stuff. So I don't know what that setting does. We'll have to figure that one out. But I was not a fan. I also don't think it's worth the money, but that's just me.
So my thoughts, when everything's special, nothing is special. And they used it so much, like every time they're in a car, they vibrate the seat. And maybe if it was a low level vibration, like you were in a car, but this is a pretty intense vibration. Every time they put something down on a table. And so it was so much. I think they limited it to like big explosions. And some of the effects, like when they tilted the camera, the seats would tilt. That was okay. I liked that. Again, overused. And now we get discounts because, like I've said before, we're members. Because we go to the movie so often, we are actually platinum members. So we get discounts. But had we paid, it would have been $28 on top of, $28 per seat. So $15 per person. $15 on top of the normal ticket.
That's insane.
And it definitely wasn't worth that. So D-Box, thumb down for me.
Oh, absolutely thumbs down for me too.
All right, let's answer some of that feedback we got.
Mail call from the United States of America.
Hey, Happy New Year. It's Jason. Really enjoyed your movie wrap-up episode. I also really enjoyed Renfield. I didn't get to see that many movies this year, so a lot of what you saw I haven't seen yet. But I want to weigh in on two things. Poor Val seemed a little confused when she read Chris Sarandon's name, who played Jack Skelton. But you guys should know Chris Sarandon. He played the greatest vampire in the greatest vampire movie, 1985's Fright Night. He was the vampire in Fright Night. Come on. And as far as the food in the theater debate, at one time I'd be with you on popcorn. I tend to get other things. But these days we go to the Alamo Draft House. And the Alamo Draft House is the best theater in the world. Highly recommended. Yes, they bring you real food. Yes, the waitresses and waiters kind of walk in front of you. But the seats are on tiers, so they're not really blocking the screen. They throw out people that are loud, and they'll bring beer right to your table. You guys might not be drinkers, so that might not be appealing. But these days I go to the Alamo Draft House, and I get a burger and a beer, and I enjoy my movie. And the other great thing the Alamo Draft House does is the half hour before the movie, they do a custom trailer for every movie with special things that tie into that movie you're going to see. And they make a new one for every single movie. It's great. So highly, highly recommended. Okay. Take care. Looking forward to the next show.
Thank you for that, Jason. By the way, Jason is the host of the Nerds RPG Variety Cast. Great podcast. Talks a lot about media and role-playing. So give him a listen. Renfield, yep. It was a great movie. We agreed. You heard us say that. Chris Sarandon as Fright Night in 1985. 1985, I was living in the UK, so I didn't get to see any movies. So, you, on the other hand, you were here.
Yeah.
Now, isn't that kind of weird, by the way? 1985, I'm in the UK.
And I was here. Yeah,
I'm the American citizen. You, the British subject, are here in America, and I'm over in the UK.
So I was a whole 2 years out of high school. So I did see that movie, but I'm going to disagree with him because I really didn't like it. But, I haven't seen it since then, so maybe I need to give it another watch. I honestly didn't remember he was in that because I just didn't even like it. So I maybe need to look at it again.
He says that popcorn is not necessary. So
I'm going to die. I can't go to the movies without popcorn. It's a thing for me. I have an addiction, I think.
Alamo Draft House. I've heard good things about Alamo Draft House. I love their policy about throwing people out who have cell phones. When we were in Austin, we saw one. And we talked about going there, but there were so much other things to do in Austin, like watch the bats. I love the bats.
God, that was amazing. Yeah, I do remember hearing about that. I remember Lauren saying about that they do throw people out, and I'm all for that. I am a person that when I'm watching a movie, I am all in. I am so immersed in my movie that somebody puts their cell phone on drives me insane. Somebody gets up or they're talking so I can't even imagine somebody sitting anywhere near me scraping their plate with a knife and fork, chomping on their food, waitresses wanting to. I can't imagine how I would watch a movie. I'm sure it'd be nice, but I think I would be so distracted. I don't think I could enjoy a movie that way. I really don't. I know a lot of people think it's a great idea, and maybe it is. I'd be willing to try it, though, just to see.
Beer, he said, don't know if we're drinkers. Well, we know I'm not a drinker. I wouldn't say you're a drinker.
I wouldn't say I'm a drinker either. I do occasionally have a drink if we're out and someone else is driving. I think the extent of my drinking as such is limited to holidays. That's the only time I really have more than one.
But I've never seen you have a beer.
My beer days were when I was 17, underage drinking. Not that that's legal, but like 17 to 19, I think, because it was cheap. But I don't really like beer now.
Except that's that thing you call it, a shandy?
A shandy's good. A shandy.
Oh, shandy. So
it's beer with either 7-Up, lemonade, Sprite, one of those. That's actually pretty good. It's very refreshing in the summer.
So is that strictly a British thing, or is that...
That's not a U.S. thing. I know that.
All right.
Because when I ask for it in the bar, sometimes they look at me like I'm stupid. Because it's different.
So then my next question would be, is that considered a girl's drink?
I can tell you that when I did that at a party, when I was in my like late 20s, early 30s, the guy that was hosting the party had a brain hemorrhage because how could I ruin a beer? But I will say that when I do a shandy, it's low-grade crappy beer. I don't use expensive beer to do that. So
was that here or was that?
Oh, no, that was here. Okay. Oh, no, that was here. He was like, the nerve of me wasting a beer. So I'm going to say that's not a guy's drink.
I don't drink, but I did go to pubs for like food and stuff when I lived there. And I know that it was very much considered, like if a guy ordered a half pint, that was considered a girl's drink. But that might have been an 80s macho thing. I don't know. We have some British listeners. Is a shandy a girl's drink?
I would say it probably is considered a girl's drink. I can't see a guy over there drinking that.
One of our listeners runs a B&B in Scotland, but his accent is English, so I'm a little confused by that. It's not Scottish. Of course, you're Scottish, and your accent is 100% American.
I was going to say that. Yeah, that location is everything. I've been here a long time.
If we give you enough to drink, you can hear it.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, here's another one from Jason.
Hey, Jason again. I forgot to mention, you said you didn't see Napoleon. I think you dodged a bullet there, because Ridley Scott really dropped the ball in that movie. He left out the part where Napoleon helped two high schoolers do their homework, and he left out the part where the troop of short people stole all of his treasure. So, kind of a miss. Okay, talk to you soon.
So I think Jason is referencing two other movies there. I believe the first one is Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Okay.
Which...
that makes sense.
I've never seen.
I saw it when I was younger. I can't really speak to it at this point.
And I think the other movie is Time Bandits.
Oh.
I have to say, George Harrison, I think, is my favorite Beatle. But as a movie producer, I can't think of a good George Harrison movie. And Time Bandits was one of his movies. And like Shanghai Surprise with Madonna was another one. Madonna and Sean Penn.
Oh, yeah, no.
Yeah, I can't think of a good George Harrison movie. Yeah, I saw Time Bandits. It was my cousin's in New York, which is weird because we're in New York that I'm saying that. But at the time I lived in Rhode Island. My cousins in New York had HBO, which I thought was like this magic thing.
It was in those days.
Especially because we didn't have cable where I was in Rhode Island at the time. And so Time Bandits was on HBO, so I went to his house to watch it. I happened to be in New York anyway. And I did not care for it. Sorry.
So the only good thing about Time Bandits, because it's not a great movie, is Sean Connery. But other than that.
Our next voicemail is from Carl. Carl is the host of the GMologist podcast. I will put a link to that in the show notes.
Hey there, Joe. This is Carl from the Geomologist. Just calling to thank you for the call for the Treasure of the Sierra Madre. We had a fun time doing it, and I really enjoyed yours and Valerie's recap of movies that you watched in 2023. So I definitely have similar opinions to a lot of them, which is kind of cool. There's some of the horror ones I did not see and I wanted to see, and some of them I saw streaming instead of at the movie theater. And I did want to say that I guess we did a lot of streaming movies this year, and our big claim was that, not a big claim, our big feats, I guess, of streaming this year were watching all of the James Bond movies, from Dr. No to the last one with Daniel Craig, which escapes my. I really liked it, but the title of it escapes me. No Time to Die. There it is. And we also watched all of the original series from Star Trek, and we watched the other ones. I like the other ones on Paramount. I'm a big fan of Lower Decks and the sort of sometimes irreverent homage. And we're trying to slog through the Next Generation. It's going okay so far. In any case, definitely popcorn at a movie. I was not always like one to buy one, but if Amy and I go, she buys popcorn and I eat it. And I love the places where you can just get popcorn refills. I also like the places where you can eat at a movie theater. I don't do it a lot, but what I do appreciate about those places, and Valerie might like, is that they absolutely kick people out if they're on their phone during a movie. Anyway, good stuff. I think Alamo Drafthouse is one of those. Anyway, good stuff. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Hey, Carl, thanks for that. So what he's talking about in the beginning is he did an episode with his wife, Amy. I guess they heard ours and wanted to copy us.
Oh.
No, I don't think so. But anyway, they did one about Treasure of the Sierra Madre. And
Nice.
That's a movie that a couple years ago we had seen
Right.
at one of those Phantom event type things. And so I called and let him know. So that's what he's talking about at the beginning. And then he talks about James Bond films, a lot of James Bond films. Although I don't think he mentioned the original Casino Royale with like David Niven and all that.
Might be before his time.
Oh, I think they're all before his time. He sounds young.
No, but I'm saying like really before his time, because I think a lot of people when you talk James Bond don't know him. Some of them don't even know Roger Moore. So yeah.
So we have a James Bond story.
Oh, yes, we do.
So right around the Camino time, by the way, the Camino is the Camino de Santiago. Valerie and I, when we first met, a year after we met, actually, the first day we met, I talked to her about it, said I was going to do this thing, and she eventually joined me. And what it is we started off in France, and we walked across Spain to the western coast of Spain, a 500-mile walk.
You could have started that with you walk up over the French Pyrenees Mountains first before you walk across Spain.
Day one, the Pyrenees.
Just saying. Google it. It's pretty bad in a good way.
So yeah, from a gaming point of view, that, there's a lot of rules in fantasy games about overland travel, about moving, from one village to the next. And our experience on the Camino changed my views on that a lot.
I can imagine.
As for James Bond, right after we came back or right before we went there or whatever, we live in Rochester. Rochester is the home of George Eastman, who more or less invented cellulose film on plastic, which means you can make big rolls out of it, because before that it was done in glass plates. And once you can do big rolls on it, you can move it to a movie camera and do all these things really quick. So George Eastman is fundamental to the film industry, just like Thomas Edison. There's the Eastman House here, which is George Eastman's old house, but attached to it is a theater. And that year, they were doing a black tie, red carpet premiere event, not premiere as in Daniel Craig and everything was here, but black tie premiere event, followed by cocktails at the Strathallan and, ice sculptures and everything. And we went to that. I put on my tux and you put on a gown, and we went and we saw it at the Eastman Theater and went to it was a pretty cool event.
It was very cool. So just in case people don't know, it was Eastman Kodak company.
Oh, I
so
never
Kodak,
said
as in
Kodak, did I?
because so Rochester is the home of Kodak film, right? So it was George Eastman Kodak was what it used to be, and we just called it Kodak, but that's the little yellow box that everybody sees. So just in case people don't put that together. I would say we're big Bond fans. I love James Bond movies. Sean Connery is still my favorite, though. Daniel Craig's okay, but Sean Connery will always be my favorite.
I think I like Daniel Craig a little better than Sean Connery. Daniel Craig, Sean Connery. I have another James Bond story. When I was in England, they were filming one of the Roger Moore James Bond movies, and it was happening at my base. And it's one of those things that when I see it, I can't remember what the movie was. It ends with kind of a circus, and there's like a missing nuke, and J. Bond is trying to track down the nuke in the circus. But that whole scene is on like the flight line of RAF Upper Hayford, where I was at the time. And that's also when we watched Humans, at the end of Humans.
Yep.
That is, I guess it's just a big film set now. That's done there. And there was something else we saw that. I was like,
yeah, there was something else recently that they used that. Yep.
And it's weird because it's pretty much just a field and the WSA, the weapons storage area,
right.
Where we used to keep the munitions. Is Department of Defense policy to neither confirm nor deny the existence of nuclear weapons at any installation or vessel. They taught me to say that my first week there. Those words. Anyway, sorry, it's still in my head. From that, I know, hey, that's RAF Upper Hayford, so that's weird. Pierce Brosnan, I want to like, but I think they waited too long. I think if they did him when they first talked about doing him, he would have been okay. Where they did Timothy Dalton instead. I don't like Timothy Dalton at all.
I didn't like Timothy Dalton as Bond. I didn't like Pierce Brosnan as Bond either. I like him as an actor. I liked him in other stuff. I didn't like him as Bond, though. Just not a fan.
George Lazenby gets a bad rap, but I think it's more that people don't like the movie than don't like him.
I think it's a combination.
What else did Carl say? He's watching Star Treks. He likes Lower Decks. I like Lower Decks. You don't.
Is that the cartoon one?
Yes.
That in itself tells you why I don't like it. We had this conversation.
Now, I like Lower Decks. I don't appreciate the level of humor. I feel the same way about the Orville. I do like a lot of the fan service, though, a lot of the in-jokes. And I like the class of the ship, the California class. It's actually cool. If I were to run a Next Generation based time frame role-playing game, I would do it on a California class ship. He's slogging through the Next Generation, and the only reason I'm gonna guess that he's saying slogging is not that they're not good, is that there's just so many episodes.
I could see that. I mean, I like the original because that's kind of what I used to watch with my brothers, but Next Generation is my second favorite.
Yeah, I like the original too. I like Deep Space Nine. I like Strange New Worlds.
Yeah, that one's good. I do like that. I wasn't a fan of Deep Space Nine, although in fairness, I didn't see all of it. I only saw a couple episodes and was like, I'm not watching this.
So Deep Space Nine, the first 2 or 3 seasons, there's no other word for it other than suck.
So I won't watch. If it takes me 3 seasons,
they are just
no
bad.
If it took me 3 seasons to get to something, I'm not watching it.
I think you could just pick up at season 4 and you're good.
Oh wow! Okay.
You really only need a couple other episodes just to let you know who the characters are. And it's interesting because what's his name? Captain Sisko. Can't remember the actor's name. He was in another show called The Man Called Hawk, which was a spinoff from Spencer for Hire. And the more they make him look like Hawk, the better the show is.
That's funny.
In Next Generation 2, I would say the first couple seasons are pretty bad.
I disagree.
It definitely gets better with age. The later into the show they are, the better. Well, yeah, he said definitely popcorn on a movie. He's not always one to buy one, but if his wife goes, she buys it and then he eats it. This sounds really familiar.
That is exactly what happens because you don't care if there's popcorn. But if there's popcorn, you will eat it. So I usually take the popcorn first and then you usually do the second half.
Yes.
So you'll eat it if it's bought. So
yes.
If you buy it, he will come.
I never saw that movie.
You need to see it. It's pretty good.
And yeah, he mentions Alamo Drafthouse. We don't have Alamo Drafthouse. We didn't say that to Jason. We don't have Alamo Drafthouse here. Right now, we are just getting a new line of cinemas. They're called Apple. No relation to the computer company, but they're Apple Cinemas. It's a company out of Massachusetts, and they are doing the meal movie service. No idea how they will be. Pretty much Regal was our big cinema company here, and we had one by Cinemark and one AMC, but Regal had the rest, and Regal has more or less imploded, at least here, and all the Regals are gone.
Yeah.
And Apple's moving in where they used to be.
So we'll see. I'm not opposed to trying it. I feel like I will have a hard time watching a movie with that much going on around me, but it's worth a try. I'll always try stuff.
All right, our next call is from Evil Jeff.
And Val, it's Evil Jeff. Just listen to the recent podcast with all of your movies for the past year. I appreciate you going through those and kind of giving us a quick hit on them. The one thing that caught me was when Valerie's talking about the Spider-Man movie and saying, she doesn't like cartoons. And in my head, I'm like, well, was it a cartoon? And I really had to go back and kind of debate and look at some stuff and think, okay, what is a cartoon versus an animated feature, etc. And where now I understand and say cartoons are more of a animated feature that's aimed at kids, where some of that stuff that we see on the big screen is aimed at a much wider audience. So I really want to kind of push back saying that all animated movies or features are cartoons, which is sort of how I feel Valerie is positioning herself. The Spider-Man movie, yeah, okay, we could think of it as a cartoon, but definitely something drawn in the style to emulate a comic book. That I understand. So yeah, cartoonish, but I always felt cartoons were something more that we would see on TV, a bit lower quality, and typically aimed at kids, but nowadays, Simpsons, definitely not technically aimed at kids. So there's probably some gray area now. But yeah, overall, good show. Love the energy between the two of you. Hope to hear some more in the future.
Hey, I'm going to start with that one. By the way, that is Evil Jeff. He is the host of the Minions and Musings podcast, another great podcast. Links are in the show notes. Evil Jeff, I think that you are getting hung up on the word cartoon, and I think that you are giving it a definition that does not exist. So after you said that, I was like, well, that's interesting. And I looked up the etymology of the word, and I went to Wikipedia and I see what they said of it. And to me, it sounds like you are falling into the same trap that, what's the word I'm looking for? So comic books have this certain reputation, right? And then there's people that want to do serious art in the comic book format. And actually the first one I ever came across was Warp Graphics ElfQuest series, right? And they want to do serious art, do serious storytelling through the medium of comics. But because of the reputation of comics, they say, no, this isn't a comic. This is a graphic novel. But really, that's just marketing hype. It's really a comic. They just want to call it something else to disassociate themselves from the reputation of the medium, but really still is that medium. And the same thing with cartoon. Cartoon, by the definition of the word, applies to any animated show or even to a comic strip, which makes sense because I remember as a kid, asking to see the cartoons in the newspaper. Yeah, so I think you're either making a distinction between words that's not there or one that is just evolving. And because we're a little older than you, I think maybe to us that's still just a marketing hype distinction. And they all are cartoons and not animated features. I mean, animated features is just someone trying to sound highfalutin about their cartoon. But yeah, thanks for the call. And as for loving the energy between Valerie and I, yeah, I love our energy too. Did you have anything you wanted to say, Valerie?
No. So, I mean, you went like all, let me go look this up. And where I was like, you know what? You can call it whatever you want. You can call it animation. You can call it a cartoon. I'm not going to change how I feel about it. Just not you. I'm not usually a fan is how that goes. But I mean, I could see where he's going with the cartoons are usually for kids thing. But I do think because of our age, I do think that does have a little to do with it. Because to me, they're all cartoons, even the grown-up ones. But I get what he's saying, but I just disagree. I think they're all cartoons.
All right, so that was all the calls we had. Yeah, I think we covered everything. Just a couple loose points that struck in my mind. I do remember that Carl said something about he likes places that have free refills on the popcorn. I'm not leaving the theater to fill up my popcorn, so that's a nothing to me.
I think for some people, that's maybe I can take my popcorn home. Yeah, I don't get up in the middle of the movie. I will, even if I have to go to the bathroom, I will sit with my legs crossed. I'm one of those. I do not leave the movie theater in case I miss something.
And as for taking the popcorn after having it in theater, it kind of stuffed. It's not the same once it cools down, in my mind. If it's not straight out of the theater.
Oh yeah, me too. I agree. I'm a popcorn snob, so no.
The other thing about popcorn, and the reason it could be that I've said before, we watched a lot of movies in my last year or two of high school because they just opened up the Showcase 10. It had 10 screens. OMG. Can you believe it? 10 screens.
You notice I'm not all surprised by that because we also have that. But it was new, yes.
Yeah. And so we all applied for jobs there. And all my friends got jobs there except for me. My one friend, Ricky Eddy, his job was the popcorn popper. And they didn't do it like at the theaters where they make it right in front of you, when you go there. They made it twice a week. So he would go in on like a Saturday and pop 400 pounds of popcorn.
Oh, that's awful.
Just line up the hallways with it. And then they would just bring it down and put it in those displays down in the... So his rule was, we could go to the movies. We could get it. He could get it in for free, but there would be no popcorn.
No, nobody wants popcorn that was made in the middle of the week.
Well, not only that, I guess when you pop 400 pounds of it, you don't want to.
Oh, he probably doesn't even want to smell it. I get it.
So that might have been. So I used to get bonbons. They were little frozen ice cream things. So this has gone kind of long. So this will be an episode all by itself. I thought I would just slap this on the back of a normal feedback episode, but this will be its own. So thank you for joining me, Valerie.
I'm happy to be here. That sounded so lame.
It sounded better than thanks for having me.
I agree, because that just sounded worse.
Thanks for, Everyone else, thank you very much for listening. Feedback at decahedron.com or all the other methods that are in the show notes. Thanks again for listening. And until next time, happy gaming, happy life.
Happy wife.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Decahedron RPG podcast. Please come back again to